Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining today's session. My name is Steve Philp, and I'm the Partnership Director here at Portugal Pathways and your host for today's webinar. Now, today's webinar will give you a clear understanding of Portugal's luxury new homes market, where it stands today, and how investors can identify the very best opportunities. Now, Portugal is the third in terms of internationally, in terms of the numbers of properties sold as a proportion of the stock available so far in 2025. And today we'll be covering what's going on with the supply and demand for luxury new homes and the off-plan, off-market options as well as price trends and which locations are attracting most international buyers, and also what markets are hot and where the next opportunities are emerging. And finally, we'll be looking at what every luxury property investor needs to know, including the legal steps, stamp duties, ownership structures, and how to avoid common pitfalls when purchasing in Portugal. And also, why it's so important to have trusted partners when navigating the new homes market in Portugal. Just before we get going, I introduce you to your panelists today. I just want to say that obviously today's webinar is being recorded. Everybody who registered for the webinar will receive the watchback link within the next 24 hours. We will be holding a Q&A at the end of the webinar today. So we encourage you to leave comments and questions within the chat. Again, if we don't get round to answering all of those questions, then our team will be reaching out to you individually and answering those questions, and also setting up any kind of discovery call or insight that you might require that's going to support you on your journey to purchasing a property in Portugal. So let's meet today's panelists. Firstly, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Paul Stannard. So Paul is the chairman and founder of Portugal Pathways and the Portugal Investment Owners Club. Joining Paul, we have Vasco Jardim. He is the founder and CEO of In Local Property Investments. And finally, joining Paul and Vasco, we have Joanna Branquino. She is the founder and CEO of Aurea Real Estate Advisors. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So let's begin by looking at where Portugal's luxury property market stands as it is today. Now, we've seen a strong growth in recent years with continued international demand, and Portugal's recent A rating from Fitch highlights both economic strength and political stability compared with what we're seeing, obviously, around certain corners of the world. Paul, what do you see as the main factors driving this continual surge in demand for Portugal's luxury properties, and in particular new build homes as well as touristic developments?
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Well, what we're seeing from our inbox at Portugal Pathways and the Portugal Investment Owners Club is that, Portugal is very hot at the moment, not just in the literal sense, which it is very hot, but also, in terms of in demand, with a lot of capital, a lot of investment, a lot of golden visa investors, and a lot of entrepreneurs and value creators coming to Portugal. And this is having an impact on the top end of the market, and in particular new homes, because a lot of the international buyers don't want the uncertainty necessarily of buying an older resale property that might not have the same technical spec and resale value that maybe new homes do. So there is high demand and a lot more capital growth in these newer properties, but there's just not enough of them. So supply over demand is always going to continue to push the values, and that's what we're seeing not just in hotspots now, but in, you know, across the country. You know, there is high demand, and it's not always in just the fashionable places. That, you know, there are markets emerging that are also seeing strong demand, and property values in the first half of the year have continued that upward trend.
Thank you, Paul, for that insight. Vasco and Joanna, we'll start with you. From your perspective, as obviously people on the ground, so to speak, how are you seeing sort of supply and demand play out, especially for new luxury homes?
Thank you, Steve. So, like Paul said, the issue here in Portugal about the limited offer, so the limited supply, it's a big thing, because we don't build in height like in Dubai or Singapore or some countries. We have limited land available, and that it turns the market very competitive, because it's not available forever and at large scale. We also see coastal towns to develop, also the north of the country a lot, like Porto and cities surrounding, and indeed the demand is still quite high in terms of these new developments and luxury homes. I think people see the opportunity, and Portugal has been very resilient and very promising in terms of several aspects that are important for these clients, like the stability, the growth, all the regimes, that golden visa, tax regimes, new formats that are coming as well, which are still very interesting, and mainly the safety. So we are still very safe and stable, and I think nowadays that's key as well.
Thank you. Vasco, what sort of things
are
you seeing?
Thanks. Well, obviously, I agree with most of what was said, but there's one main aspect that we see now across the board, which is a real perspective that Portugal is, in fact, a good investment. Not specifically any area, but the country as a whole and our background is structurally a good option. Obviously, all the infrastructure from transport to healthcare to education and the business environment more and more is healthy. And so we are seeing a continuous positive demand in terms of the real estate market, international, but also very important, the domestic market going strong time and time after. And this I think is a direct consequence of political stability that we've been having, a business-friendly atmosphere where all parties are working together to ensure, and this leads to a healthy domestic market. And then obviously all this effort made to attract international investors, which is a continuous reality, and all indicators tell us that it's here to stay. So we're happy with the general background.
Brilliant.
Steve, just following up with what Vasco said this morning, there was a news article from that was published across Portugal, which was based on a Financial Times index, FDI index, that now has Portugal as the second the second in terms of confidence and investment levels out of anywhere in the whole of Europe. That was on the FT this morning. So that sort of reiterates what Vasco was saying, really. It's not just property. Confidence in Portugal is as high as it's ever been.
Yeah. So that brings me nicely on to my next question, which is all around international buyers and what they demand. So again, going around the panel, what are international buyers looking for in terms of location and specification and amenities and lifestyle, etc.? Joanna, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Can I start? You asked me to start.
Please,
you cut, so I
do apologise. Sorry.
So, I mean, the demand is very diverse, and I mean, we deal with many nationalities, but still the appetite for new developments is very, very big in general, because regardless of the location, people want the opportunity, and not just investors that seek opportunities in new developments, but also lifestyle buyers that either want to relocate here and they are not in a rush, or they basically want to have a holiday home, because new developments have proven, and we have been selling them for a long time, to be a very good source of capital growth and wealth preservation. So people have their peace of mind that someone is building and dealing with all the licensing and all the works and contracts, and they can also pay in different installments and mortgage part of this investment, which is very attractive. So basically, they seek modern condominiums with amenities. Developers here are also targeting their offer into this. Basically, things that have all the amenities on place. Buildings now being built with co-working spaces included, so people can work from home but in dedicated spaces. Family oriented, and basically near the coast, and also, I mean, within Lisbon, Cascais, and all these cities that are booming. And we see this demand from many kind of buyers. Obviously, like Vasco said, the Portuguese market is still the #1 in Portugal. So we have a culture of owning real estate that is very strong. So everyone, and 70% are homeowners in terms of statistics. So everyone likes to own a home, and you have countries that are like this, and by history we have that. So the Portuguese market is still very active, okay, even in the luxury market, I can tell. So not only new developments that later can be a good investment and they can resell, but even in luxury homes that are finished, and this is also something that Portuguese can see opportunities, and it's quite interesting.
Thank you, Vasco. What are you seeing from your international clients?
Well, Steve, essentially the main tendency that we've seen lately is exactly the openness from international investors for different types of assets. In the last longer years in the past, we saw a very targeted investment flow towards the large cities, or the main or the main coastal regions, such as the Algarve or other specific locations. Now, what we are seeing is obviously these more traditional areas continue and go strong, but we are seeing very much an interest in international buyers in pursuing locations which weren't initially seen as attractive or even as safe as they are now. And I think this is a direct consequence of what was mentioned in your first question, which is the general attitude towards Portugal is one of confidence and one of a blooming future. And so people tend more and more, especially towards a more affluent customer base, we see people really looking in areas which weren't very well known at all, and looking at very different profiles, from income generating assets just for rent, or development opportunities, second home, first home. There's really a variety of different investment profiles, and that gives us additional comfort, and we think there's good things ahead of us.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Paul, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I'd also add, sort of moving on from what Vasco was saying, really, the amount of clients now where people are saying, well, I want to put a foothold in Portugal. So they might make an initial investment in a property. I had a music producer who bought a property, but it wasn't the one he was going to finish with. He bought one to get a marker down quickly, made a $1.5 million investment in an apartment in Cascais, but that wasn't where he was permanently going to settle because he wasn't sure. So he had ambitions on a much bigger property, but he wanted to take his time while he was in the market. And then subsequently, he's now looking at a portfolio. So what can he look where he can co-invest or be an investor alongside a project, or take some off-market deals from a developer? And I've got 5 or 6 examples of that in just the last month alone. And the other thing I would also say, that the sort of development profile is changing as well. So the specification are going up and up and up, which again makes it attractive to international buyers, and the different types of projects that are coming on stream now seem to be, there's a lot more architectural design than there would have been on the properties that were built as villas for holiday homes 10 years ago. Now they're properties that are, that may have office, that they may want their, work from there, that they, in winter, that they're well insulated. And all of that is being reflected not only in what the buyers want, but it's also, being recognised by the architects and the developers and builders.
That's right. Just on that, if I can. It's actually quite impressive, the amount of people that we've been working with lately, which buy a first home or a smaller investment in the beginning as a test run or to have a foot in Portugal, and then come on to second and fourth investments, and move from building or buying something off plan or built to actually developing and going through the development process in Portugal. So we really see, as you were saying, an interest to start exploring other less conventional investment opportunity routes. So there's a lot of interest and a lot of trust in Portugal and its partners, and I think that's very good.
Lovely. Thank you, Pekka. Thank you. Just moving on a little bit, can the panel sort of give us some insight and discuss in more detail the opportunities around off-market and off-plan Portugals in Portugal? Paul, can we sort of start with you on this one, please?
Yeah, I think it sort of starts with how you navigate it, because if you're from the US or you're from the UK, you'll probably have bought properties. If you haven't bought internationally before, then you bought properties using portals. But and they have what is known as multi-listing systems, which have all price discovery, and you can track and trace it. Now, Portugal doesn't have that because there's some data issues around releasing that information. But it means that some of the agents might only have a handful of developments on their mandate. So therefore, they're not always holistic in their approach, like Joanna or Vasco. They tend to sell what they've got, as opposed to putting the customer at the centre of that. And that's what we pride ourselves with at Portugal Pathways. Is making sure that we've got development partners right across the country, and then trusted partners that are used to navigating this marketplace. Like Vasco's family have been around, the country and real estate and many other sectors for generations, and trusted partners that if you haven't got the right solution, that you will always, make sure it's linked to the buyer's sort of life goals or investment horizons.
Vasco, Joanna, anything that you want to come in behind Paul on that with regards to the off-plan and off-market markets?
Yeah, well, if Joanna, do you want to start?
Whatever you want, no problem.
Yeah.
I would like just to add something which is especially important when we are talking about this, because it's extremely difficult sometimes for clients that are landing here that think they can do it all online by themselves, but that's just a hand of what you can actually do. Because even for us, sometimes to really, when we have certain kind of requests from clients, we really need to dig very, very hard on the contacts, on our network, on groups we are, and to get all the properties that are available. Because, like Paul said, the information is very fragmented, and you cannot just get access to everything in a click. So you need to know people, you need to really have the pulse of the market, of the developers, of the partners, freelancers, you name it, right? So this, in one hand, I think it's really important to choose a good advisor that can have this full approach based on the conversion of the client and not the commission we are making. And this is very important, and I think clients can feel that from the agents they are working with. And it's it needs to be transparent and analyze the pros and cons, because if you are an investor, this is even more important, because you need to have insights, you need to have data, and sometimes data access here in Portugal is difficult. So you need to have someone that really understands the market well. But even in lifestyle, because even in lifestyle buyers, if you want to make sure you don't miss the best opportunities, I give you an example. We have several developments, and now one in Porto specifically, that is selling off market. So if it's selling off market, and basically if you don't know what's going on, you will miss it. So it's important to be well connected and with someone that really works hard to get the opportunities, and not just what they want to sell, like Paul said. And that will make the investment or the purchase to sound more fair, and actually for you not to feel that you missed something in the future because you just saw a couple of things. So this would be one thing. And just to finalize quickly, I've seen a mistake with people buying new developments sometimes, which is selling new developments. It's very important that you really understand what you are advising, because sometimes a property might look really well in a floor plan, but then you don't know what is facing, what is the sun exposure, what kind of object do you have in front. So especially if you want to buy new developments, and this is something we focus a lot because we like it, and I personally love this section of the market. You really need to understand also what you are buying in the new development, because that's where the advice of a professional can also be very valuable, because for future resale or a future rental, that can make a big difference as well.
There you go. Vasco, anything else that you want to add to what Paul and Joanna said? They might have left you too much.
Well, Stephen, in terms of selling off plan of new developments, that is essentially what in local investments our real estate agency does on behalf of projects which we are involved in the development process, or other developers which are our partners and we work with. So we have a large portfolio of developments off plan, and we don't necessarily just sell the units. We have specific pools of investors which come upfront with us, which we invite in for some of these developments, and which obviously people come at preferred conditions. And so a lot of what we do, apart from the normal commercialization of developments, is actually plugging in early bird investors in certain projects, and this has become a really interesting formula, both for the development side as well as for investors who want to come in early and ensure that they are doing a good investment at a particularly attractive price. for an asset which will have a considerable valuation over its development process timeline, and doing this in a very, very transparent manner, and in a way where people essentially have a complete overview of the risks involved, and a very specific legal protection. And so we are very much leaned towards working in a network kind of format, where people who want to come in early in these developments have the opportunity to do so. And this has been a successful way of ensuring valuation over time in these premium off-plan developments.
No, thank you. Now, we've mentioned a few times. Go on,
Steve,
sorry.
could I just add to that? We researched over the last 2 months. We've reached out to over 250 developers, builders, architects, asking them, how they're approaching the off-market, the off-plan, and obviously projects that are out of the ground and ready to go, and there's only a few left. And it is, these things the market is moving so fast that you do need to talk to a partner, because sometimes people say, well, send me properties. In a market where you send someone and they're going off plan so quickly, it's really important to talk to the right partners who know and have these relationships, like the panel that are on today, so that you do, get the best opportunities out there, and you're not chasing blind alleys, because you can lose a lot of time and get very frustrated very quickly if you don't work with the right partners.
That's right. And Paul, if I may, I think there's one thing that's particularly relevant when a foreign person addresses the Portuguese market and tries to find an opportunity. There really is a process where we need to filter and understand what people want to achieve. And this, is obviously budget, it's obviously location, but not just a broad location. We need to understand what kind of lifestyle, what kind of investment profile people have, and as well, what kind of risk profile they have. Because we won't be creating value just by, forwarding links back and forth and showing people random miscellaneous properties which they can't really contextualize. If we understand clearly what people are looking for, what their risk profiles are, and the type of lifestyle, if that's the kind of asset they're buying, or investment profile they have, we can easily guide them towards the different opportunities and lay it out in a way where people can actually consume that information and make an informed decision with a group of partners, from legal to developers, to agencies, to whatever they need to make that decision. And so it's really important to have this initial conversation in some level of detail to be able to achieve results and make an informed decision.
Okay, thank you. Now, we've spoken a couple of times so far during this webinar about the lack of data available, and also some of the other portals that are available in Portugal. So Paul, what are some of the problems when it comes to researching sort of luxury new homes and new build properties on some of the big sort of property portals in Portugal?
Well, the first thing is they're search boxes, aren't they? In the old traditional, we can say it's old now because we've been using the Google bots for nigh on 20 years, and the same with these portals. But AI is changing it, so people want to understand the master plan. They want to understand the location before they start looking at the individual properties. And if they're looking in a new market where only 35%.
We lost Paul. Can Joanna Vasco? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh right, we lost
Paul.
We've lost Paul. I wonder if it was me who. So I don't know, Joanna and Vasco. Just on that point, whether you can sort of follow on behind Paul when he was sort of talking about some of the bigger property portals that are currently available in Portugal, and how that might hamper or not enable an individual to get a true understanding of the availability and the opportunity.
I can give some insights of that, because most of our clients are international, and one of their challenges they often rise to us is that they can even go to portals and do their homework and navigate and all of that. But then there are several things that they find difficult. So one is the access of data and information about the market, which we can give access to that through some professional tools that we use and our experience as well. Also, another one is that not everything that is available in the portals is actually available, or is not even in the right locations. So sometimes things that are online are not even available, and they are just there to fish some clients. And also the rest that I think Paul was mentioning is there's just a limited portion of options available online. And if you just browse online and you don't get the right partner and a person that will guide you and will advise you, you will miss a lot of the opportunities, because many of them are sold off market, and they are within, especially in the luxury homes. Most of the properties in the luxury market are really sold off market. So within specific networks, within specific contacts, so they don't even go online. So that's the advantage of being in touch with you, with people like us, obviously here, that we will provide a quick access to this, because we have been doing this for years and years, right? Decades. And within a quick minutes, we can get access to whatever is online that match the criteria of the clients, okay? And also suggest opportunities, because sometimes people browse online and they think there is a certain neighborhood they like, but by understanding what they are looking for and the lifestyle, like Vasco said, and what kind of expectations they have, we can actually recommend other locations or other neighborhoods that can have very interesting properties or investment opportunities that people don't even consider because it's not on their radar. So that's why it's so important that we see an holistic approach, because that will save time. And I think time is actually the most luxury thing in the world at the moment and for people. And within a quick consultation, we can actually give a lot of insights that people cannot browse online easily, not even with ChatGPT or other platforms. So it's more about the advice and not just about the opportunities that are online, because for us, we do so much more than that with clients, and they need a professional, they need someone to paint, to interior design, to all of this. So we consider ourselves more like the right hand. Sometimes we make fun that we say we buy with you, we don't sell to you, right? So we need to be side to side with the client to actually guide them, and not just, oh, I want this here. Okay, but maybe you are not seeing the full picture, and maybe there's something else that is more interesting. So that's, I think it was what Paul was also mentioning about the fact that here there's such a limited offer online in the portals. They are good for a kind of education. We also open the channel for our clients to engage with the portals, and then more often they send it to us, and we can make inquiries on their behalf. A lot of the product we already know, but if there is anything we don't know, we can seek the details much faster because we have the contacts. And the real estate world is still quite small here, so we can get access to information and to all the requirements they can get.
Lovely. Thank you for stepping in, Joanna. Paul's back. Paul, was there anything that Joanna missed within that you want to add to? Or indeed, Vasco can come behind.
I don't know where I fell off because I was in full flow. So I'm probably best to let the conversation continue.
Yeah. So Vasco, anything that you want to add around that topic?
Yeah, well, I mean, in line with what was said as well, I think the main value creation that comes from the listings is a general perspective of what's available. It's limited, it's not organized, but I've come to learn more and more every day that informed buyers will always look at those portals, will always do their own homework and their due diligence and understand the generics of things. But as a matter of fact, devil's in the detail, and so what we see a lot is people might look at a specific development or a specific asset online and think that the general location it's in makes sense for them, but then they might look at the street or the immediate area around the asset and think something's wrong here, why it's not exactly what I'm looking for, and just turn away from that. Or the opposite, or they can think it's very good, but for some reason it really isn't. And so we have very clear and regular examples of people that initially have turned away from a specific investment opportunity because they don't know in detail what's happening and how the city is moving and evolving, cities in general. And so they really miss on some potential value creation in an area. The hotels that are coming in, the restaurants that are coming in, the infrastructure, and this makes all the difference. The information being laid out to someone in a way they can effectively consume and make decisions which are informed and make sense. You need a local partner for this. You need local information which you can trust. Otherwise, you're constantly, I'd say, behind the activity and behind the wave. And so this is really what people have expressed more and more is, what they can't see immediately, and that's where the real potential usually is.
Can I add one thing very quickly, like a good example of this? So we recently were working with some clients in a new development opportunity in Porto, and if you go online, it could be actually this is not actually online, but if you would go online, let's say you would see a beautiful development, amenities, pool, gym, views, whatever. But actually, people couldn't know that there will be a metro station within 4 or 5 minutes walking distance. So we basically sold to a few clients there because we knew that, because we, like Vasco said, a good local partner will be informed. And now the construction has started for the metro and the price is already increased by 20%. So, these are the big advantages that no online ChatGPT will tell you, because they don't know what are these little but very big things that can actually turn your investment completely different, and certain locations that are not so interesting, they certainly become very attractive. This was just a nice example of what we have been saying.
Lovely. Thank you. So let's sort of move on a little bit, and let's talk about a really critical factor for buyers: location. So we all know that a lot of international buyers have preconceived ideas in terms of the locations, or the opposite, they don't know where to start. So, knowing myself from sort of personal experience with many of the clients that I talk to and that we talk to at Portugal Pathways, or investors, will say that they want to live, for example, in the upmarket Golden Triangle area of the Algarve, such as Quinta do Logo and Val de Lobo, but they might also want to live in Cascais, for example, for its international cosmopolitan reputation and its proximity to Lisbon. However, not everybody can find the sort of best value in these locations. And obviously, surely it's more important to start with what kind of lifestyle that they're looking for. So obviously from an international perspective, Joanna, how important is this, especially when people are starting out on their research, or they have those those preconceived ideas about where the future value is from an investment point of view, rather than that sort of second home in Portugal? I know that you've touched on a few of those things earlier, but it's obviously just such a big thing, location.
Well, I think this is extremely important. I would say I never start with a client before we actually talk. And we need to talk at least for 15 minutes. Sometimes is enough, or 30 minutes, so we can give some insights. But we need to understand what are the client's expectations. It's extremely important, because when people say to us, "Oh, just send me options," oh my God, it cannot happen like that, right? Because it's not good for anyone. But indeed, the location, it's very important. Obviously, it's one thing. Sometimes we keep the location quite open, because, for example, I give you the example in Lisbon or in the coast to Cascais, or even in Porto. Sometimes we have people that are even like, "Oh, we like Lisbon and we like Porto." And we need to try to understand also what kind of real estate they are seeking, what is their budget, and where is the most chance so they can find the best value for money of what they are expecting, Because if someone has expectations on having views and having a coastal life, and, and we can target them into a direction. If they are more keen into more city life or being walking distance to restaurants, we can target them into something different. So we need to understand really well what the clients are looking for, both lifestyle and investment, so we can actually guide them. And we have been with some clients lately that in the past, I feel clients were more keen into certain locations. Right now, it's a little bit more wide, for example, in Lisbon, they are more open to neighborhoods. Sometimes they come with, "Oh, it can be Lisbon, can be Porto. We are happy to explore both." And then we need to guide them and also tour them, because we don't want people to buy a home and then to have to find out lately that it's a very lively destination or a very nightlife neighborhood. So we try to mitigate all of that and give the realistic approach to what the location looks like, what the lifestyle they can expect, what kind of grocery shops, So it's more like a kind of a concierge, I would say, to guide people into the right location and into the right kind of property they have in mind, and to open their minds as well, because that's our job. Sometimes people come with very tight ideas because they search online or a friend told them, and our job is also to open up their ideas to other things that might be useful. And then if they keep secure to the initial thoughts, at least they saw a little bit more and they can make a knowledgeable decision, which I think it's pretty important in these kind of transactions.
Lovely, thank you, Joe. Vasco, just sort of moving on again, because I'm conscious of the fact that we're sort of approaching the hour mark. We've got a few questions that we want to get to at the end. So obviously, Vasco, we hear all about Portugal's welcoming nature. It's all year round sunshine, great food and drink, low cost of living, safety and security. But obviously, Portugal can also be quite bureaucratic, and obviously its law isn't based on Anglo-Saxon law like it is in the UK or the US. So it can be a little bit more subjective. So again, how important is it to have people on the ground who understand this and that can work with you every step of the way and mitigate any of those unintended consequences when buying a new home in Portugal?
Yeah, Steve. I mean, as you know, the core of what we do is real estate development. So We do it for our own investments, and we do it as a service for third parties. We do it for business to business development, and we do business to clients. So final clients that come to us and want to develop a private home or investment asset or whatever it may be. And so what we see in navigating this process from an investment interest from a party to the delivery of the asset is in fact a lot of potential risk and a lot of potential information that is hard to understand from someone who is here for the first time. And so our main job in this process is to put this information in a format which is clear, transparent, and allows people to make an informed decision in their investments. And so we seldom are the cases where people say, I've done everything the first time alone and it's been very quick and very easy. You know, it's not. It is a process that requires some experience and also some understanding of who are the right partners for a type of project, who are the right partners for a different type of project. And this goes for all different partners, from legal to tax advisors to builders, whatever it is. And so our job as a development platform in that sense is to really put together the network and manage the navigation of this process from A to Z. And really what we need to understand is, as Joanna in the real estate agency side of things, is what's the starting point? What do people want? How can we put in a systematic approach what people are looking for, what risk profile they have, what location and lifestyle they intend to have, and from them build a path and a structured execution process which will get their property or their investment delivered in a way that is safe and easy to navigate. So yeah, and that involves the licensing or planning phase, the partner selection process, which is extremely important. It's extremely important for us to help select the ideal architect, the ideal lawyers, the ideal builders for whatever type of asset people want to have.
Yeah. Sorry, Vasco. Sorry. Yeah, you just touched on one thing. I mean, just sort of before we move on to the sort of Q&A, the audience questions, I can see we've got quite an engaged audience today, and I said I want to keep it fairly tight to that hour. But before we move on, I'd like sort of Vasco and Joanna to really just to walk us through the steps that people have to take if they're exploring investing in luxury new homes or a new build off plan or off market. For instance, again, Vasco, you just touched on that, appointing a property lawyer, how much deposit is required, stage payments, etc. How important is that to have a real grasp on that? And again, from your perspective, going back to working with sort of local partners with knowledge, how does that all sort of stitch together?
Yeah, well, when we're advising a buyer buying into a new build or an off-plan development or whatever it is, we really try to contextualize the main decisions that people need to make. And obviously, appointing a legal and tax advisor is one of the main issues. Having an investment advisor in terms of the real estate is obviously a lot. We do that through in local investments, and that's the starting point to understand what people want. But also from there onwards, the banks, the builders, if that's the case, the correct information of what payment plan is safe and adequate. All these basic initial decisions are absolutely essential for people to have a smooth running process. But it needs to be adjusted to each investment profile, each person, and each asset type.
Joanna, anything that you want to add to what Vasco just said there?
Yeah, just quickly, like Portugal is definitely not anymore a trend, and it's a strong place to be and to invest. We are, in terms of documentation and bureaucratic, we are not the most efficient country. So unfortunately, this is probably our main challenge, I would say. And that's why it's so important to have someone that makes this part easy, and not only from the legal point of view, but also in terms of mortgages. If you are working and seeking a mortgage, it's very important to have a good mortgage broker that can help you even to pre-qualify before you start seeking properties. And also just someone that will, sometimes we say to be the glue between the parties, because you can have a tax advisor, you can have a lawyer, you can have someone in the bank, but sometimes it's good to have someone that is the glue, that just points out, guys, did you do the power of attorney while you are here doing visits, so you avoid doing that lately and cost you money and travels and everything? Or as you are here, just let's take care of the bank account, which will be very fast. Or if someone is investing in a new development, maybe they can even do the first down payments through the legal client's account, so they don't need to be waiting for their account opening and they don't lose the opportunity. So it's like you need to be elastic and agile to make sure clients overcome these challenges, because buying overseas, it's always a challenge, I would say. And the first thing would really be to have a conversation, to set a timeline, to set a plan. So then it's much easier to achieve things, also according to each person, because some people are in locations that is very easy to find a notary, someone to take care of their power of attorney. Some people are not in such a easy location. So you need to have this broad overview to make sure people are connected with the right partners as well.
Lovely, thank you. I'm just having a look at obviously the questions coming in, and we're quite clearly not going to get to all of those questions before the end of the session today. So again, just to reiterate that our team will be going in behind and reaching out to anybody that we don't answer questions to, and just again, I know we've the team have shared a couple of links, but again, if anyone here, within the audience is obviously looking to invest, is looking for their forever home, please reach out to Portugal Pathways. We can, obviously have that initial call, and then from there, work out, within our partner network with partners such as Vasco and Joanna, where the best place is to sort of place our clients. And Joanna mentioned obviously glue. That's obviously how Portugal Pathways see themselves. In and amongst obviously all of the elements that you might need on your sort of personal journey to Portugal. So again, the team have just shared a link out there. Please reach out to us, and then we can sort of delve a little bit deeper into your specific needs and your personal situation. So let's just obviously move on to the Q&A. I've got a couple of questions here, and I've got one here it's from Sarah, and again, I think Vasco mentioned this, or Joanna mentions, how important is it to set up a local bank account, and will I need a Portuguese NIF, which is a tax ID, if people are unsure what that means? If I'm considering mortgage financing, what's required, what kind of papers, what a big question, paperwork and processes should I be aware of? So again, going back to that sort of what do they need to do, again, maybe, I mean, Paul, is that something you want to do, or shall I pass that one on to Joanna? I don't know if Paul can hear me. I can't hear Paul. Can you hear
Paul
Paul?
is mute.
Yeah, he's mute. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, Steve. Yeah, I can take the first part of that question, and then maybe Vasco or Joanna can follow on behind. But obviously, setting up a tax ID, which you need in Portugal, along with a Portuguese bank account, Portugal Pathways can help you navigate that. But you need to do that. You also need to appoint a lawyer to help you with that, which we can also help with. But when it comes to introductions to, if you do need a mortgage to support this investment, then we have the networks for that as well. But when it comes to the requirements and paperwork and stage payments, that really is down to the individual thing. But really, probably best to let Joanna and Vasco, finish off that question.
Vasco, do you want to sort of take that one?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously there's the basics of bank account, tax number. All of these things are essential for anyone to actually move forward on an investment. We do, however, have a perspective, our real estate agency team, which focuses on these onboarding clients which are still looking to make their investment and starting the process. What they see more and more is people going forward with getting lawyers and getting this and getting that. And that's absolutely essential. But in our opinion, that's day two. Day one is about getting a basic partner which you're comfortable with, and really understanding what you're looking for and what you need to plan and plan those basic steps with them, and then understand if there's really all the characteristics and all the checkpoints for you to move forward on that investment are there. We see more times than not clients that come to us which have heard they need to get a lawyer, get this, get that, and after a month and a half they have been paying lawyers, they've been getting bank accounts, trips back and forth, and no real traction, nothing's happening, and they don't really see their investment moving forward. So we think, and that's certainly the way our real estate agency likes to work, is understanding what people want and then planning the basic next steps. Obviously lawyers, and Portugal Pathway certainly has a very good platform of contacts there, but specific things such as people are looking for a mortgage. Seldom are the cases where we tell them to go to a mortgage broker. What we usually do ourselves is we have partnerships with most of these banks, and so if people are looking to invest in development A or development B, depending on the one they choose, usually we have the partner bank that has preferred conditions for our clients in those developments. And these things really make a difference. They make a difference in terms of price, and they make a difference in terms of the service. It's very different to go to a bank and ask for a pre-approval of a mortgage for a specific asset based on a development the bank knows and potentially even is financing, rather than just going on a blank sheet to a bank and asking for a mortgage. So the whole process depends on each asset and each investor, but also on having a clearly planned process where we can help guide through the first process and the first steps.
Lovely, thank you. Just following on, Vasco, I'll just quickly stay with you before I'm going to Joanna for a couple of questions. And this is particularly high in the news here in the UK. Can you explain what stamp duty is in Portugal and roughly how much Elena, who's asking this particular question, should budget for legal fees if they're buying a new property abroad?
Yeah, the stamp duty is a bureaucratic tax we have in Portugal, and it's around 0.6% of the transaction value, if I recall off my head. And then Alongside that, you have the IMT, which is the real estate transaction tax, which goes between 6 and 6.5% based on the transaction value. So, all in all, you will be close to 7% tax on top of the market value or the closing value of the asset you're buying. So that's obviously important. We need, and it's very important for people to understand then and to take into consideration the cost of lawyers, the cost of bank financing and bank opening costs, because whilst they might seem small in the larger numbers, when they add up, it is a substantial value, and so it's important that people are aware of them when they make the decision and when they actually put their cap on budget.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Joanna, last question to you before we sort of wrap up today, and this is from Roger, and he's saying, how easy, and I think we know the answer to this one, but how easy is it to resell a property in Portugal if his circumstances changes in a few years?
So I would say, and often we typically focus mainly, 70% of our clients are investors, and I also invest myself. So it's usually, I tell the success of resale is in the buying, right? So when you buy, you really need to buy things that are, and typically we even analyze this with lifestyle buyers. When we are advising someone, we give them always the insights on the potential resale, easy and value. Because as much versatile the property can be, the safest it can be in the long term. What I can also add is new developments has always proven to be very easy to resell, because a lot of people don't want to wait. So they want to have something ready to move in and something brand new. So something more well located. Usually we tell location, right? So it's the most important. But I would say in general is pretty straightforward and easy. It's more about choosing something that is more within the big part of the pyramid that will always be more attractive to more buyers. And we also provide the guidance to that, even for like holiday homes or people that are not investing today. But we always give a perspective on that so people can be secure for the long term as well.
Lovely, thank you, Joanna. Well, as I said, I think we've run out of time for questions. I'm conscious of the time itself. But as I said, the team at Portugal Pathways will reach out to anybody who's left a question or a comment on the chat that's gone unanswered, and we'll get back to you within the next sort of 24, 48 hours, as we will be sending out a recording of this webinar. And again, if you'd like to book a one-to-one discovery call with any of Portugal Pathways experts, discuss your interests in buying new homes in Portugal, please use that link in the chat. But before I go, I just really want to get a little takeaway, as it were, a final thought from each of the panelists. So, Paul, I don't know if you would want to go first.
Yeah, my screen's frozen, but hopefully you can hear me okay.
We can hear you, Paul, yeah.
Yeah, basically, it's don't navigate this on your own. Don't rely on the portals. Talk to trusted partners. Come to Portugal Pathways. We have a wide network of developers, partners. Like Vasco and Joanna's organisations, and we can be that glue and actually take some of that sort of uncertainty and give you more peace of mind and clarity with people that have walked this path many times before.
Thank you, Paul. Vasco?
Well, first of all, I think as Paul just said, we've been working for quite a bit of time with Portugal Pathways, and we do think you guys can be this glue, and you are this glue in the sense that there's a platform of transparent information, and a strong network of potential partners, maybe like the ones here and others, lawyers to architects to builders, whatever it may be. And so we think Portugal Pathways might be a very good starting point to get your first steps towards your investment. And in terms of finding a way towards the right partner, it really depends on the type of investment. Is it city center? Is it buying built or off plan or for development? And you guys can really help filter that information and take people towards the correct partner.
Thank you. And Joanna, final thoughts?
Well, I think everything was really sad until here, but I just feel that, by working with international clients mainly for more than 10 years now, I just feel that it can be much easier than sometimes people think. So it's really coming to the right partners and just understanding that it can be much easier. And again, the power of having connections in a click, like you mentioned, for people that can interact with you, it's very easy. We are also more than pleased to set up introduction calls to everyone that can have just quick overview and just like be open to opportunities, because sometimes we hear people saying that Portugal is more expensive than Madrid, than London, than this and that. And it's still booming, the market. And we see people moving from those locations for a reason. And we believe that people didn't miss the train fully, and there are still a lot of good options to seek.
Lovely. Thank you, Joan. A big thank you to all of our panelists today, to Vasco, Joanna and Paul. Thank you for your time. Big thank you obviously to the audience for sticking with us. I do apologise that we've sort of just gone over. I'm just trying to share a screen of my good old technology. There we go. I just really want to sort of just close by saying a big thank you to everybody involved, and just to say that we've got a couple of webinars coming up in the not too distant future. So we've got one obviously coming up on the 2nd of September, which is around how to optimize your tax and position in Portugal. And then a week later, on September the 9th, do apologise for the typo on there, we've got how to optimize your tax. That's wrong. It's a golden visa based webinar coming up on the September the 9th. So again, all details are on our website, www.portugalpathways.io/event. And then you'll find all the details and ability to register your interest. But again, thank you for your time, and we will see you very soon. Thank you very much.